Hello everybody and welcome to the RV Lifestyle and Repair Club live event. We're going to talk about RV connectivity. I'm Dave Solberg, your host. I've got Beth and Jeff from Pace International, and we've used quite a few of your products over the last few years. Beth, tell me a little bit about Pace.
Yeah, well, I'm happy to be back here for our second time. Pace has been around for over 40 years, and we've been in the RV technology space. So delivering connectivity is relatively newer on the grand spectrum of everything we've done, but we've always been delivering something to that effect. So Travelify is a little bit newer of our products. We've got a lot to share with you today. We'll hopefully answer a lot of great questions, but I'm excited to bring Travelify, a Pace branded product, to the marketplace that really changes connectivity game for everyone in the RV space.
Yep. Well, and we brought Jeff along. Jeff's the technician, and we'll talk about the pretty stuff, and then he can get into the real meat and bones of things. So, Jeff, thanks for coming in.
Sure.
I've had a chance. We're going to talk today about cell phones. We're going to talk cell phone signals. We're going to talk about internet connectivity, and then we'll talk about satellite systems. And so, let's start with the internet. And I remember when I first started traveling around the country, I trained dealers for 5 years, and I'd spent 6 to 8 weeks, and there was no connectivity whatsoever. Some campgrounds had a plug-in back then, and there was no streaming. And of course, when I rode the horses in to get the training done back then, so it's really come a long ways. I've had a chance to personally use the Journey, not this Journey version, but in Rocky Mountain National Park. Down in Phoenix, Arizona, in the mountains. I did use it in the Death Valley, and nothing works in Death Valley, so that's kind of interesting. But let's talk about the connectivity. Today even, a lot of people, and I do seminars all over the country, and one of them is RV connectivity, and more people are traveling for work, more people are getting out and want streaming, they want to be able to stay connected. And talk a little bit about what Travelify has to offer here.
Yeah, well, I think you hit it right on the head. I mean, after COVID especially, people's lifestyles change. So whether that's where they're working, where they're wanting to travel, you have people getting out on the weekends more, traveling more. You've got full-timers. You've got traveling nurse careers and otherwise things like that. So staying connected is really a huge thing. We all found out very quickly in the pandemic how overloaded systems get. Say if you're at a campground, how much of an issue connectivity was. So as Travelify came into the picture very closely around all of this time, very fortunately, we were able to offer our first product, which was the Journey 1, that delivered exactly what they need. It's got up to 5 devices that you can connect, so really the basics of everything that you need, and connects to multiple networks, and that's the key. So as you're traveling around, you're finding desolate areas of no connectivity for certain cell phone carriers or what have you. They needed something that wasn't the park Wi-Fi, because we know that's not going to be a reliable situation. And for people that had to work, and that was how they were getting around and in handling, especially lockdown, this was a necessary product for them, and I think it came at a perfect time, and we were really able to solve that solution for them.
Well, even today, when I talk to people at the seminars and the questions that I get in, the campground has a router that's usually in the office, and if you're not within 100 feet of that, the signal is pretty much horrible.
Right.
And then people say, well, I'm just going to get a booster, or what are they also, repeaters, or there's several names for them, and what happens is it actually cuts the signal in half, and it makes it worse the more people that have this.
Right.
So talk a little bit about, what are the options? And Jeff, I'm going to let you get in here. What are the options that people normally have for connectivity out in the industry?
Yeah, a lot of times you'll see RVs come equipped with some sort of Wi-Fi repeater from the factory. Otherwise, unfortunately, the user is pretty much on their own. Sometimes if they rely on their cell phone, you can find various companies that make cell phone or cellular boosters along those lines. And then what's really come into play nowadays are routers. Everyone has some sort of a router offering, and what's big now is the cellular router. So something you can put a data plan on and take with you to have internet on the road, basically.
Okay, so we got a question that came in from John. It says, how do Travelify plans compare to using my phone's hotspot? So before we answer that, that's the next portion I was going to get to. A lot of people that I've had at the seminar say, well, I've got this plan with a hotspot, and I've got this plan with a hotspot, and to get the data that they need, the price is pretty expensive.
Yes.
And also the coverage is going to vary wherever you go. So talk a little bit about the different data plans, and I can pull up here.
I think the biggest challenge with data plans is that there's a lot of stipulations. So whether it's your phone carrier or otherwise, you're running into throttling, you're running into, shared bandwidth, you're running into a lot of things that are going to limit that actual connectivity. And then you're running off your phone, so your phone's heating up, you're, overwhelming that itself. So there's a lot of stuff that is hard about having it on your phone. It's great because it's all in one plan. You can flip it on and off. They'll be like, add $10 a month for this. But again, you're limited by a lot. So depending on, the needs of what you're looking for, our plans start at $19 and go all the way up to $129 for a truly unlimited plan. The great thing about that is that you can really tailor it to what you need. I go, off with my kids and we're traveling a little bit. I'm not on my computer all day, but they're watching their movies. We're on a 25 gig plan, never gone over it. And that's, $29 a month. So it's really, really reasonable. The people, if you get all the way up there, if you're comparing some of the bigger options, it's really in line with all of it. And you're just measuring your true unlimited connectivity with where you are most of the time and what that offering looks like.
Well, I found too that if I use my phone as a hotspot, it dies pretty quickly.
Correct, yeah.
If I'm just calling with it and I don't ever answer, which my wife says I don't.
What do you want to be without your phone or your TV or your computer?
Right, and so these, I've had this one on. It went for almost a full day without having to recharge it, and it works great. So.
And this is also a power device as well with the Journey Go. It's a new product, so you're not having to charge it and then use it and recharge it. It's all happening at the same time.
Yeah, let's pull that one out. So we've got the two different versions here, actually three different versions, but that one is the portable, and that should be charged up and ready to go. We just hook this on. Get the light to come.
The great thing about this one is it comes hooked up to 10 devices. So if I have 3 kids, so 5 devices goes pretty quick. 10 is really pretty reasonable for most people, most situations. Usually you've got a computer, a TV, a cell phone, a tablet, a couple things like that. So you really have pretty much all you need in a basic product like this.
Okay. So Jeff, tell us a little bit about the difference between this versus some of the other products where you pick a plan or a provider, and this one you've got the top 5 pretty much, or tell us a little bit about what it does, what it finds.
Yeah, basically we've programmed these things to be able to pick from multiple networks. So with the data plan that you pick, you're not just stuck to one carrier. It's going to go out and whatever area you're in, it's going to automatically connect to the next closest carrier that you have in your region basically. So when you turn it on, it's going to take a minute or two. It's going to find the signals. It's going to find what towers are in the area. And then as soon as it does that, it's going to connect, and our plan is going to let you talk on that network. Whatever network it may be in the area, the plan allows you to connect to it, basically.
Yep. Okay. I did a test of this when this one first came in. Like I said, I've used this one all over the country, and it finds, at one point it was Verizon, another point it was T-Mobile. So I hooked up this one on a 5G. And what I really like is your tech support. That could have been you.
He's the king of that.
Yes. Well, and what happened is I hooked it up in the office, and we've got a brick office with this pretty, enclosed. And I was getting, I think it was T-Mobile. I was getting 4G because I'm in a very small town. We don't have 5G towers except to get way over in here. And I was getting like a 14 megabyte download speed. And it was a little bit, that'll still work. And what I found is that if you're streaming, that's kind of when you start looking at some of the, you want a little bit better download speed. And we were trying to get a basketball game. My dad's a big Iowa State fan, and so we were trying to watch a basketball game, and it was on ESPN Plus, and it was buffering in his facility he was at because we were at 14. We found it was on 4K. So there's a difference in what you're, what you're watching, what you're streaming, and so forth. Yeah. But I hooked this one up, and I called tech support, and we went through and we switched from Verizon to T-Mobile. We tried a variety of different ones to get a little better bandwidth. I took it home, and I was getting 140 megabytes. So this is kind of interesting here. We hooked this up. We're inside a building. We've got a full metal grid above us here. We're in Minneapolis, and I'm going to pull this up and do a speed check test for you. So we just go to speedtest.net, and we're on a Verizon 5G out of Minneapolis here. And I'm going to do a go, and we're going to have, this will take just a little bit.
should have a drum roll or.
Yes.
And like we had a conversation before this, it was very surprising to I was not even sure what kind of signal was going to come out of a building like this. So it speaks a lot to the power that it has and capabilities it has.
So we're at 102 downloads here. When I first hooked this up, we were at almost 300.
Yeah.
And so what I'm assuming is that now that we're right close towards noon time, we're getting more and more people that are maybe in the area here a little bit. Jeff, talk a little bit about 5G versus 4G. What's the difference in those?
Yeah, so 4G has been around since the early 2000s. It was a huge leap from what we call 3G, but 4G really got us into having high bandwidth, speeds that support all your major internet applications. The thing about 4G is that it's nationwide coverage. It's been built out completely by now. So the next big step, and this is a huge step, is 5G. 5G allows us it has a completely different type of radio communication that allows the speed and the connectivity and the latency to be way better than 4G ever was. So basically what we have now is cutting edge technology, 5G. You get basically speeds that you would find at home on a landline. You can get on the road with you now with our 5G XTR Pro.
Okay, so we got a couple more questions here. Mike says, can I install any of these systems myself or do I need a technician?
They are designed to be self-install. Basically, you just need to have power and put the antennas on.
I just installed it.
If I can do it, anyone can do it.
Exactly. Yep, we have our basic hotspot, which is battery powered. You just turn it on and activate the service. Our other two, basically, those are router class devices. Those you just plug them into power, put the antennas on, and then turn them on and sign up for service, and you're good to go.
Yeah. Well, I think the difference between the two, this one here, I travel a lot. I go to shows, I do seminars, and I get into some of these buildings, and they don't have it, or you got to pay for this. I pull this up, and I don't have to carry something like this around.
Right.
That goes in my backpack, and it's easy.
Yeah.
Airports is easy. You pull it out. This, to me, is more of a not permanently mounted, but more something you would put inside an RV and use it in here. And then you've got a little better, I think, reception off of this typically.
Right.
With the antennas and so forth.
Yep.
So you would basically just plug this in. I do like the fact this also has, we can see on the backside here, and this one I think is already.
It's on the front.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about being able to connect on the backside of this.
Yeah, so when we jump into the router class of product that we have, they have built-in Ethernet and WAN ports. So basically you can connect things that you would have in your home office. You can take them with you and connect them on the road, make your own hardwired Ethernet network. So a local area network basically. These devices will support that along with giving you that internet to both Wi-Fi and wired devices all at the same time.
And a lot of people that work out of their RVs will have towers that they'll use, and permanently set up with an office, a little bit, because I have this for traveling, but I have a tower at home, so it's nice to plug that in. The other thing about this, then talk a little bit about this guy here.
Yeah, so this is a new offering for us. This is our Waveform brand antenna. We sell it as a pairing for users that have the XTR Pro 5G. And it's designed to connect into the existing aerials on the antenna, on the router itself. And basically this is a unique offering where it has the ability for you to mount this outside the RV and basically get the best signal possible if you think the RV might be hampering your signal. You could also move the antenna around, which you can't do with the router unless you're limited by the RV. But what this offers you is 3 different mounting options. You can even just use a magnetic base, which it comes with. It makes it super simple to just slap on the roof or something and have an external antenna. Otherwise, you can permanently mount it if you want to. It's got a spigot type antenna. You can ladder mount it. You can do a whole bunch of things with this flexible offering to get you the best signal possible with this combination.
Yeah, because sometimes you will get into a place that there isn't real good reception inside. Like you said, I'm surprised that here we got something in it. We did get a question that came in here from Paul, and I'm pretty sure my dad asked him to ask this, because what is a hotspot? My dad still has 12 blinking on his VCR, I'm pretty sure.
Sure.
And what is a router used for, and will I need one or the other or both?
It's definitely going to, depend on your situation. So for me, like I said, I travel with my kids all the time. I just have the Journey Go. I am typically jumping on to check email, do some work. They're streaming their, video on Netflix or whatever for a little while, or on their tablets. So I'm not consuming a huge, large amount of data. Like you said, when you get into a streaming, like constantly, you're doing video calls, you're watching 4K TV, that's where you're really gonna need to think about the data application. But as far as the product application goes, if you're just a basic user, the Journey Go is fantastic. The XDR and 5G, both, like you said, are, you have more robust needs, right? Like you have multiple devices that you're trying to connect to. You're trying to, set up that home office and do a little bit more. Say you're on the road every single weekend, or you're a full timer. You're going to want that maximum connectivity output. So that's kind of where those other products come in. I think for most basic users, the hotspot is a very easy, quick to, start, stop, change, move around. Even the plug and play, routers are easy to move and, take in and out of your RV. Say you're, coming in and out or using it at your home office. A lot of people use that their cabins, or, bring it up to their parents' house for the weekend, or whatever that may be. It is very flexible in that nature.
Well, and to get to his very first quote, what is a hotspot? That, like I say, my dad would be going, what? So in your home, the first wave was you had the old computer, and you had dial-up. Remember that? Bing, 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 and it was basically, you had some kind of a hard line, and even today, you've got a hard line that comes in, whether it's fiber or whatever they have in it, and in your home, it plugs in the back of your tower, and you have internet for there. Well, then all of a sudden, we start traveling, and we need something. And, so the first step was a router, like this, what people were getting a signal from, and then we started getting hotspots on phones. And so a hotspot basically is a device, whether it's your phone or this, that is going to take a wireless signal from one of the towers or somewhere, and be able to provide you with internet into that. So,
your computer's got to grab onto something in order to connect to the World Wide Web, right? So that's that, immediate connection.
That's true. So let's see. So basically, in his question with the router, what do I need? So that's going to give you a signal. This is going to give you a signal.
You need a power source. That's really the main application for that.
Yep. And that one is going to allow you to recharge it and be able to be a lot more portable.
Yep.
So then Sherry asked me, how do I figure what plan you need? How many gigabytes?
This is a great question, and you can check out our blog on travelfly.com. We've got a data estimator that helps, but we really got to think about, what kind of music, video, TV, like what devices are connecting. On the data estimator, it asks a lot of those questions, like how many hours a day are you doing that, to kind of give you a really good estimate. But for example, we have a great blog that's asking, how long does 200 gigabytes last? And the question for most people, it's more than plenty, right?
Yep.
Like I said, I use the 25 gig plan, and I'm kind of that weekend traveler. They use it in the car on the way and all of that kind of stuff. The people that have unlimited, like I said, it's a great true unlimited plan. You're not throttled by different things if you were using like your cell phone provider or something like that. But you can pretty much do anything with that data plan. So if you're on a like TV, heavy streaming, I would say like video calls, you're definitely going to trend up towards that unlimited. And honestly, the unlimited, you'll not go over. So it's really kind of the better deal. And I think most people kind of head that way.
Yep. And I think you get used to it. Sometimes at the seminars, I get somebody that hasn't gone out yet.
Yes.
They're getting ready to go, and they know they have to have something, and then they ask you, well, how many gigs do I need?
And you can always go up, like for example, you'll be able to access the portal through your phone or through your computer, see where you're at on a data plan. It's not 100% like minute by minute, but you'll be able to see where you're at, right? Sometimes people don't realize what their kids are doing or how many devices are connected, so sometimes they go through it faster, and then they're like, why is it not working? A lot of times that's why. But you can always call in, and we can always bump up your plan and make sure you're covered.
Which brings up a good point. What if I only need to go out for, I've got it at home already set up. I'm going to go out for the summer.
Yeah.
You don't have to buy a 2-year plan.
Right, so everything's month to month. So you go 30 days at a time. We get the question a lot, like, can we use it just for the weekend? Of course you can use it just for the weekend. The plan's gonna last for 30 days, but a 2 gig plan, I mean, that's plenty for a weekend, and maybe you want even more for that one weekend, depending on what you're doing. But that's sufficient enough, even for the people that are just going out. $19 for a weekend is pretty much
Well, and it does
nothing.
say here too, you get 1 to 2 hours of HD streaming,
Yep.
10 hours of browsing. If you're just going to do checking
Yeah.
emails, browse the internet, I mean, that's a cheap plan.
Yeah.
Like I say, I've had many people that already have something through one of their phone providers, and they're spending, way over $100, and with a real limited amount of it. So it's
Yep.
a pretty good plan here.
Absolutely.
We've got another question. Let me come back to that. And
And you can always bounce around with plans too. For example, like you're going to be gone every weekend in July and you want to bump up to unlimited, but in August you're maybe only going one weekend. You've got that flexibility to change around your plan to whatever you need.
Okay. So Sherry asks again, is it a secure connection?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
It creates
You can
its own.
elaborate.
Yeah, it creates its own Wi-Fi network, and it's passworded out of the box, so everything's already secured. And once you connect to it, you're on your own Wi-Fi network. Unless you share it with friends or family, you're the only one that has access to that device. And then the device itself connects to the mobile network securely as well. And you're basically on your private little internet access with this device or any device that we offer.
Okay. And then Bruce asks, how well does it work in Western Canada and Alaska? So I'm going to go test that because I want to
right
go to
back.
Alaska. No, have you done any testing in like Canada, for example? Is that
Canada's a different ball game because it's classified as international at that point. The nice thing is actually we do have a smaller data plan offering for for Canada and Mexico actually. So you can buy specific plans that'll give you access to Canadian and Mexican networks.
Okay.
So you can technically take it with you into those countries. As far as Alaska is more advanced than people think now. As long as you're within the big city ranges, like Anchorage, Wasilla, things like that, you can certainly get all the latest 4G and 5G networks up there now too.
okay?
We've definitely had people, in Baja, Mexico is a very, very popular place. Worked fantastic. They
Yep.
had the 4G product and had no issues whatsoever.
Yep. Well, and I have talked to several people that used it in Quartzsite. Quartzsite down in
Yeah.
Arizona,
Yeah.
that is a great big rock festival down there, and there's 100,000 people in it. And it's still when you get that many people in one spot,
Right.
you're going to have some drop in bandwidth. But they still had great reception out of it and loved it. In fact, a lot better than other plans. So.
Sure, yeah.
All right.
And that's something too. I mean, it's not, a magical wand, right? Like there are still other factors, like when there are that many people in a small area, that will be impacted. There's only so much bandwidth a tower can take at one time. But for most situations, like that's not something people have to deal with.
Okay. Then Sherry asks, if you decide on a plan and run out in the middle of the month, can you up the plan? I think you.
Yes. Yep.
You can go in and up it, and like I say, you can start and stop if you only want to. If you're going to RV for the summer.
Yep.
You don't want an entire year or 2 year plan when
Right.
you already have something at home.
Yep.
But I have seen a lot of people that have dropped what they had at home.
Yeah,
You know-
and you find a lot of different applications for it. I have a daughter in cheer, and we're constantly going to 6 hours away and all these away, or at the cheer competition, there's no Wi-Fi. And when you sit around a lot and you have 2 other children, it's imperative. I did it for a summer plan, and then I just kept going because we use it all the time. We find all sorts of, we're at practice for 3 hours or whatever, things like that. That makes sense.
Okay. So we have Greg asks, there's a new product being advertised called HomeFi. They say that you buy it and there are no fees or monthly charges. Are you familiar with that, and how does it compare to TravelFi?
Yeah, I don't know if you can probably elaborate on it too, but there's a lot of similar product offerings and there's a lot more tied to it. I will say one thing that we differentiate on is the fact that we've been in this RV industry for 40 plus years. So we're not trying to get you on this home product so we can hook you forever. We're trying to offer a true RV solution that makes sense for this market. In addition to that, we've got an entire support team. So when you call in, you've got a problem in my RV, this is the situation. These people know this stuff inside and out, and so you've got that application as well. In addition to those pay-as-you-go programs. So there's a lot of different features that TravelFi brings to the table that providers offering similar type products, even looking, don't offer that same thing.
Yeah, and I have seen a few other ones that have they claim to have a similar deal, but you have to pick a network with that. So you don't get
Yes.
to go into an area, like here we're on Verizon. Back in Iowa, I was on T-Mobile.
Yep.
That happened to be the strongest one there. So
Yeah.
I don't have to rely on the fact that, wherever I go, I have to have this.
Or know what it is. If you're driving cross country, right? Like it's gonna follow along and switch as those needs change. So you're not having to try to switch that yourself while you're driving. Good.
So Dwight asks, came in late, did this get recorded? And unfortunately, yes. I'm just kidding. All right, so we're going to move on to the next section. We're going to talk a little bit about cell phone reception. And, we don't have the product here, but just kind of go over what you offer for cell phone boosting. Now, I did use one of your products out in Death Valley, and I had less than one bar at the not right in, but there was a hotel casino campground right out in the middle of nowhere. We were shooting video, and I used one of your products, and it got me up to the point at least I could get communicated occasionally. So tell me about what you guys offer.
Yeah, so if you go on Travelify, our website, or dishoutdoors.com, you can find we do have accessories for the RVer that are dedicated to cell phone boosting. And cell phone boosting is basically within FCC regulations, you're able to boost or capture signal and reboost it again in your local area. That's what a cell phone booster is going to do. It's going to go out and it's going to grab all the signals in the area, and then it's going to re-amplify it inside using another antenna that'll cater to all your cellular devices that you have with you. And the goal is you're not necessarily going to see, you're not always going to see a huge signal increase. The goal, the basic premise of a cell phone booster is to just clear up the signal itself and stabilize the signal. And so you can move around while it stays stationary and it rebroadcasts what the local towers are giving you. So we do have accessories from a couple different companies. The main one we like to use is SureCall. We also offer from Weingard and King as well. But these are kits specifically developed for the RVer as well. You can go and find home kits, things you can install in industrial settings like that. But the whole premise here is that we offer you the cellular data side of things, and we also offer the ability to boost signal. And it can complement our products, the cellular routers, the hotspots, as well as your cell phone. It's not biased towards any device. It's just there to try and give you some better signal in the area and smooth out what you do have. I mean, it's not going to create signal, but it'll at least smooth out what you have.
And from what I used the SureCall, and from what I saw in some of the blogs and literature and stuff, is that's pretty much the predominant one that emergency vehicles use as well. Your fire trucks, your police, and so forth, and that really seemed to work very well. That I was using it. So then the next thing is, we just talked about cell phones, so we are going to move to the dish satellite. And I'll get this out of the way. Do we have another? We don't have any more questions that came in. So, this is not a hairdryer, right? Talk a little bit about the options for satellite reception in the RVs.
So satellite technology in and of itself, obviously we're moving away from cellular. One of the reasons that Dish is around and is still predominantly used for like a premium television experience is there's a lot of places that cellular signal is not available, or it's not very strong, especially to produce video, right? Like there's a lot of places that'll offer connectivity, especially with a product like that. But the television experience itself is a little bit different. So these have been around forever. This technology really has not changed at all. I don't think we've had much new in the past probably 6 years. But Jeff mentioned before, things that are meant, for the RV, which is this particular product from Dish. It's their Wally receiver. It's very similar to their other products like the Hopper. It doesn't have all of the bells and whistles that the Hopper has, but this is small. It's tested and shake tested, heat tested for the RV space, which is also what makes it very unique. It's easy to work within some other accessories, and we can talk about that, but it's a simple connection, right? One to the antenna and one to the TV. As long as there's a clear shot of the sky, you can get that satellite signal, and you can move it around. A lot of people these days are not installing them or having them installed on their RV. There's a 25 or 50-foot coax cable, and you can move that around, put it on a picnic table, that kind of thing. For people for example, that are using like a Starlink product, for example, and they're parked underneath a tree, like they can't move their RV as easily as you can move an antenna.
Yep.
And so that's why I think people still really love this product. It's also on a pay-as-you-go model, so you don't have to have Dish at home. You can just pay for the months that you want, 30 days at a time. Obviously, anybody that does have Dish at home as well, you'll get the product or the outdoor service for only $5. So for the people that are kind of bouncing around, it's a perfect solution for that. It's a real easy add-on.
Well, and to break it down a little bit in simple form, you can get television reception by over-the-air antenna.
Yep.
You see most of them now are mounted with the WineGuard 360, which I believe you guys offer
we
as
also
well.
carry,
And that's just a large dome, not quite this size, but it will do 3 different locations, find all the towers that are around. I don't watch a lot of TV when I go RVing, but I want to see the weather. I want to see the news. Sometimes, especially in metropolitan areas, I like seeing that early morning news station that talks about all the festivals. That's where you find the fun stuff. So you can also stream, where you take a hotspot and you come into a smart TV, be able to stream and do Hulu or whatever the different versions are, or the satellite here. What I like about the Wally is what works in a residential setting doesn't always work in an RV.
Right.
I see people that put residential refrigerators or the televisions they buy at the box stores, and all of a sudden, boom, 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 bouncing down the road. You let them get 120 degrees in the summer when you're not using them. The Wally is basically robust enough to be able to use inside an RV. And like you said, if you got a home version, then $5 a month, you get the Dish, you get the Wally with that. And talk a little bit about how this also can be set up if you do stream.
Yeah, so it's great because it's got the applications that can help make some of the other things easier. So you mentioned the off-air antenna. There's an adapter that you can get that will pull the program guide. So when you're going through your program screen and you're looking at all the channels and the programming options, it will pull in those off-air channels into that guide. So there's a nice seamless integration. You're not flipping switches and doing all of these super manual things. Like, we're past that. There's a lot of advances in that. It also has a DVR capability as well, which I think was over here. The cool thing about this is that you can record your channels like on your hopper if you have it at home, or put other content on this DVR and then plug it in here. You don't need the satellite set up at that point to actually watch that content, which is also nice if you are in a mobile RV or a situation maybe where it's not getting the right signal. You can pull in that DVR content and watch it without having that done. Let's see what else. Has a Bluetooth adapter. So you can hook it to, an outdoor speaker, headphones.
I love the headphones.
A lot of people love those. You can watch your TV late at night without bothering anybody, or you're wanting to watch a game, and having sound for everyone to hear. So that's a great option. And then the last one's the Wi-Fi, and this is kind of where all of these work together. So anytime you have an internet signal, whether that be at the campground, a Travelify product, or otherwise, you're able to connect to all of the other things, right? Your Netflix apps, the Pandora, and again, all of that is in one screen. So you're not, again, making all of these flips. So it's really nice to be able to kind of integrate these technology pieces. A lot of people have both of these, right? They have internet needs, and then they have, their premium television needs. And so they work very, very well together. And it eliminates a lot of switching and, logging into all these different accounts and all of that kind of thing.
Well, I have a friend that has an RV, and he has one of these systems. He's got a big screen TV on the outside, so he flips up this deal, and he loves the Dish because he uses the Bluetooth in the back here, and he goes to NASCAR races, and he tailgates at football games. And so he brings the TV up, puts this out in the front. And what I like about the portable one, and I get this a lot with even solar panels. People say, I want to put all these solar panels on the top. I want to put this up on the top, and I want to forget about it. Well, you get into a campground, and you pretty much always want to be in the shade.
Yeah.
Especially even with solar, because you're going to raise the temperature on the inside of it. I can be underneath the tree, I can be in the shade, and I can put this anywhere and get a signal.
Yep.
And
exactly.
then just be able to hook it up. Usually every service center has a coax cable in there that will go up into your entertainment center. So it's simple to install.
Yeah. Yep.
But he likes the Bluetooth because he added 2 Bluetooth speakers to the
we
outside.
need to hang out with this guy.
And
I think that sounds great.
He tailgates at the ball games, and he goes to the races and does the pre-race stuff. And he's a hit.
Yeah, the ultimate premium setup, absolutely.
Well, and then we had to get rid of his old batteries and put new lithiums in because he had to run the generator before that. But that was a whole nother.
Chip-in.
Yeah. So we have a couple more questions. Does the Dish Wally work with any TV?
Yeah, so as far as connecting to a TV, I'm assuming brand-wise or otherwise, whether it's a smart TV or not, it's just through an HDMI cable. So. Your normal.
Well, even if you have the old version, right? You can do the RGBs here. This is the satellite in, and you don't have a coax cable, but I think almost any TV that has HDMI or the component, which is these pieces here, will get it. Some of the older versions had a coax even to go out.
Right.
But I don't know.
We actually do offer a converter it's called an RF modulator that will support your oldest TV.
Oh, quit trying to impress them. RF
the
modulator.
ones that you have to really lift.
That's what they call them. It's not my term. No, we do have options if you have an absolutely a vintage RV, we'll say. Okay. We can get you hooked up with TV somehow.
All right, Captain, we need more RF modulators. Okay, so let's talk a little bit. We get a lot of questions about Starlink when I'm out on the road, and when it first came out, the disadvantage, and I don't mean to downgrade it, but there wasn't a lot of connectivity. You're at places, but they've got I don't know how many thousands of satellites up now. But give me a little bit of comparison between the Starlink and the what you would get with the dish, or how you use that even with the other stuff.
Yeah, I would say the technology is the same, right? It's both satellite, right, versus cellular. And I think that's the confusion that a lot of people come across is what do I need and how does this work and do they work together and all of the things, right? The satellite technology, they're up in the sky. The cellular towers, they're not, right? There's some different applications there. A lot of people are using these technologies together as failover, right? So if you don't have a satellite signal, but you have a cellular signal or vice versa, these days people are so used to being connected, they don't want to be without it. So there's a lot of applications where they'll use them together. But Jeff can get into the technology more and the differences on those too.
Yeah, so the Starlink is a unique program where it's designed. They have thousands of satellites orbiting around the Earth. They're constantly moving in groups of 50, 60 plus satellites. They're in what's called a low Earth orbit. It's meant to give you that reception, so the ultimate reception at that lower orbit is designed to give you high-speed internet. They have pay-as-you-go programs that are similar. It's designed to be accessible in rural areas. Wherever you have access to the sky, you can normally get Starlink. It's designed to be as plug-and-play as possible as the Dish TV setup here. Comparability-wise, our next closest product to Starlink as far as speeds would be concerned would be the Travel 5 XTR Pro 5G. We can get comparable speeds to Starlink, and you're still able to connect to different networks, whereas Starlink, you're just stuck on Starlink. If you don't have access to the sky or something's blocking your vision to the sky where the satellites are, we have that cellular option that will still work, if you don't have direct line of sight. So we're on parallel as far as speeds go. It's just the difference is one satellite technology, one cellular base, but we're at the point where we have 5G technology and we can really compete and give you an edge in either case.
Yeah. And I think the biggest thing, now you guys do sell a mount for the Starlink at this point, but the biggest thing that I have seen is it's a price point, pretty much. If you have to have that downloadable stuff, not everything is designed for everybody.
Right.
But I think, so you have to decide. And then one of the questions that came in here is, Cheryl says, I'm confused. Do I need Travel Fire? Do I need Wally Dish? And, that is confusing.
Yeah.
What is streaming? What is, I still try to, every time I try to explain stuff, I go back to my dad, and who is still kind of going, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Streaming.
Yeah.
So the difference is that the Playmaker here, the Wally system, is designed for Dish Network satellite, and they have their own programming, and you can get a package that has all these different programs, and it's high quality stuff.
Yeah.
It's not internet.
Yeah.
It.
Exactly, and that's the main question we get all the time is, does this also do internet? Which it does not. I mean, it really depends on, like I said, your viewing needs. I love the days of being able to like look and see what is on and what do I want to watch. I get that analysis paralysis where I'm like, I have 18 streaming channels to look at and I don't know what to pick, so I just pick nothing.
Yep.
So if you want access to all those, like I said, with kid situations, like someone needs Disney Plus, someone needs this, all those things. Yeah, streaming's great because you have all these, but that's how many different subscriptions, right? Like most people have anywhere from 5 to 10 these days. This is one pay-as-you-go program. You can say I want this package for 30 days. It has a lot of the stuff that you're looking for. Obviously you can look at certain channels and find what packages those are in, but it takes a lot of guessing out of like, what should I watch today?
Well, and that's where the overlap comes in. When you start talking about internet versus satellite, this is for watching TV.
Yeah.
This you cannot check your emails.
Correct.
You cannot search the web. Can't Google search with this. This gives you internet. And that's where it gets confusing, is that I can check my emails, I can Google search things, I can watch YouTube, but I can also then go in and get these programs that now the overlap is I can do Hulu, which has television shows, and I can get ESPN Plus, and I can get 1,000 other ones out there, and now Prime, and
hence all the confusion.
And that's where if you didn't grow up with this stuff. It starts to go, well, what do you mean I can get TV with that? Well, I can stream. What is streaming? And
I think if you pull out that into your point, like go back to, those of us who grew up a little differently, right, and didn't have all this streaming option, right? It was you had a cell phone or telephone provider, right? And then you had a cable provider. And it's very similar to those things.
I go back further than that.
I'm not going to date anyone, yes. Those two go together, for a lot of us is like, yep, we had our dial-up internet that went through our phone system. Nobody could answer the phone or talk on the phone for however long. But it's kind of those two things. Like, this is what you're allowed to do on the internet side of things. This is the TV. There is that crossover with that streaming. I think that's why it's so confusing. But I would say, like, what are you looking to do more of? Like, what is the main thing that you want out of it? If it's premium television that's always available, that's all HD, like that kind of stuff, Dish Outdoors is a great setup. If you're looking more like, I want my computer and my laptop, I need to stay connected. Yeah, we'll stream some shows as well. Like, that's an internet, but there's also application, like I said, for both. People want their home experience on the road now. Those two offer that whole home experience.
When I grew up, I used to have to get up and walk clear across the room to change a channel. 3 of them, 3 channels is all we had. But my dad did have the very first wireless remote control. Ooh. Yeah, in our area it was Dave. Dave, change the channel. Okay, all 3 channels. So it has changed quite a bit. We have then Karen asks, where do you find your price list? When I just had that up, so I will show her that, and I think maybe
for data or for product.
I don't know. Let's tell them.
Both of them are available on the website. So if you go to travelfy.com, you'll be able to see the data plans. Same thing if you go to dishmyrv.com in terms of the dish pricing as well. So the main thing with Travelfy is the product is going to be a part of your decision, but at the end of the day, it's you're going to get multi-network access. How much data are you going to use? That's really what it comes down to. Obviously, there's differences in the products in terms of your use case, but once you get past that, the data is the real thing that's going to get you connected to everything.
Well, and if you're looking at price on Dish too, then you've got you sell the receiver here.
Yep. So we sell the receiver and the antenna, or you can bundle them together. What we found a lot of times these days, people have antennas. They bought an RV with one, that kind of thing. As long as it's a Dish compatible antenna, and most of them, I think there's conversion stuff at this point now, but all you need is the Wally then, and then to activate your service. So we're seeing that a lot as well.
I mean, if you want to go with simplest terms, and so if you don't want to buy one of these, they do have the Dish, which is the large metal dish with the stand, and I see a lot of those out in campgrounds, those are very, very inexpensive.
Yeah.
A lot of people already have them for their houses that they bought, and then they went to cable or internet or something like that. So, you could use that as long as it's dish compatible and come back. But I think if you go on the website, you can find the price of not only the equipment, but the data plans that are on there. And even with Dish, you have different programming levels.
Correct.
You got a basic that has
there's like
30
four main packages,
Yeah.
and they range. I mean, your top packages are going to give you pretty much every channel that you want.
if you really want to rough it.
Right.
You get all the channels.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then, that's one thing you got to decide too is everybody's idea of camping is different.
Absolutely.
Some
Yeah.
people have to have 5 TVs and 8 slide rooms, and I pretty much like to go out. That is a bed at the end of the night.
Yeah.
So
And how long are you out there and who's all with you? Like my kids are used to winding down with their show or whatever. So, while we're out all day, like that is part of the experience for us that makes everything like home.
Well, and that's what I tell people in my seminars. You have to take yourself out of your residential setting. Where you're going to come home from work, you're going to eat dinner, you're going to watch TV, you're going to follow whatever programs you want to follow, Yellowstone and all that kind of stuff.
Or you need your nightly news or your morning news.
Exactly.
Whatever.
But then when you go camping, if I go RVing, I'm out sightseeing, I'm out walking the trails, we're in the mountains, we're doing different things, and then it's a bed at the end of the night. Even when we get back to the RV, we're out in the patio.
Right.
And I don't need a TV out there. But some people do.
Well, and there's a lot of data to support the fact that people are going longer when they have connectivity available, not just TV, but being able to, hey, I can follow up on these emails or finish a work project or whatever. Now we're going 7 to 10 days instead of 3 to 5.
Yep.
So it does offer a lot of convenience, even if it's not the main thing.
So Karen did come back and say she was the one that asked price, and she was talking data. So
packages,
that's where we just pulled up that data package, and then and a lot of times what I tell people, same thing with solar panels. How many solar panels do I need? How many battery pack? Test it. You can upgrade it. You can add to it. This is the same thing. If I do 2, I would get by with 2 gig. That would be easy because I'm going to check my emails. I might Google search where the nearest Walmart is. When I run out of toilet paper.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Like I said, I mean, even 25, like we'll watch shows and they'll be on their tablets and stuff like that, and that really does last quite a bit of time.
Yep. And so Karen says thank you. We got Gregory here asks, are any of these products HIPAA compliant? And I don't even know what that means.
So if they're talking in a medical terminology, I'm assuming, I think that just bodes to the privacy network of things.
I do not believe they would
qualify
for I think there's one called FIPS. It's the government mandated crypto type of security. These do not qualify underneath that for now. We just don't offer the devices. They would be more costly as well.
Sure.
Yeah, it says HIPAA is adheres by organizations to the standards set forth by the Health Insurance Portability and Accessibility Act of 1996. And we'll have to do a little bit of research on Dish. Dish might, because of their size and their market
I've never had that question before.
But, yeah.
But I mean, like I said, at least on the Travelify side, it is a private network. So there is some security level in that. Obviously, if you're doing remote work, there's going to be different levels of compliancy based on whatever your employer is asking for. But it's not a specifically certified device in that regard.
Yeah. Okay. And so we did see here that the Travelify brochure is downloadable if you go into the question and answer sessions. So with that.
And like I said, if you missed it before, we've got a data estimator on the site as well that'll help you figure out at least a ballpark, right? This is not a perfect science, and you might be lying to yourself about how much you're watching, your kids are watching, or whatever, but it'll get you close to what is most ideal and where you should probably start with.
Yeah, and I know I've talked to some people that said, well, I only needed so much, and then once they get out, they don't realize that 2 of the kids are outside.
Yeah, right?
Doing this. I only need 2 gigs, and it's all of a sudden like, whoa, wait a minute.
You do, yeah.
Wait a minute, what are you doing out there? So,
for sure.
Yeah, I just need that. So anything else on the Travelify version, or what we're looking at. We've got a few minutes left over. We don't have any. We do have one more question. Greg says, "Is it for confidential communication between?" Oh, it is for confidential communication between patient and therapist.
Sure.
So, with that, one of the questions earlier said, "Is it a secure network?" And so, I don't know with HIPAA if it, if you have to actually certify it. I'm
Right.
assuming you do to get but it is a secure network.
Yes.
So it kind of would.
It'd be the same as you connecting on your cell phone for like a health service or something like that. I think what he's asking may be more down to the healthcare provider.
Okay.
Ask them is their product secure? What maybe the virtual access program, but the products themselves they don't hold anything except for the type of encryption they use for the Wi-Fi and the firewall that's built into them. Things along those lines. They're holding to other standards, not necessarily healthcare.
Okay. Well, and I do know that in my seminars, I have dozens and dozens of people that are going out doing, some of them are doing records for hospitals,
Sure.
some of them are mobile nurse.
Travel nurses.
Travel
yeah.
nurses is a big thing. They'll go to someplace for maybe 6 months at a time or less. And, they love it. They're using it like crazy. So
Yeah.
we just had another one. Ginger says, lots of information and came in late, downloaded your brochure. Thank you. Would you please say your site address more clearly? So I think Jessica just put up Ginger in here. We got the Travelfy and the dish. So Travelfy is basically travelfy.com.
Yeah, so make sure we spell it right. It's up here, right?
Yes.
There's no E. That's something people come across a lot. But travelfy.com, and then you can go to dish4myrv.com for all of the dish product.
Okay. And one other thing else we had, I think that was it with those. So one more question said, Greg says, thank
Lots
you.
of great questions.
And download the rest of it. Okay, well, just trying
There
to
will
think.
be, a guide on the page as well that really gets into pretty much all the questions that you could have about Travelfy that you can download, including the data plans and everything like that. So if you missed anything, it's pretty much all on that.
Well, let me just pull that up real
download.
quick again, because I don't think we looked at, there we go. So here are the 5G plans.
Yeah, great option.
And getting back to 5G versus 4G, one of the things that you find is that 5G is kind of a hot button, right?
Yes, you think you need that everywhere, and I think that's probably one of the most frequently asked questions we get is, is that the best one? Do I need that? Most applications, the 4G is just perfectly fine for everything that you need. There are, I think, and Jeff can talk to more, circumstances where that 5G is going to give you the edge and the environment and connectivity that you're used to and maybe require with work or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, just due to the technology itself, the modem inside the device is top tier. It's already cutting edge. Even if you don't have 5G service, it'll fail over to 4G. So if you happen to be in an area that just isn't great for 5G or it hasn't been built out yet, it still fails over to 4G, so you're not going to be completely disconnected.
Yeah.
And even on 4G, with the fact that you have a 5G rated modem in that router, it's going to give you the best speeds possible on that the 4G network can deliver. So you're already at an advantage there too. So if you go to the 5G device, if it fails over, you still get the highest speeds possible on 4G. So it's really nice. I mean, again, 5G isn't everywhere. But when you can get it, it's amazing. I mean, it's super quick. The low latency for gaming, things like that. That's hundreds of devices. I mean, our 5G offering can support 128 people over Wi-Fi alone. And if you have a good connection, the top speed that we offer, 200 megabits per second, is huge. It's almost like a home connection.
Yeah.
So it's pretty great technology.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and
and that's where the different pricing comes in, just like you had up there.
Yep.
It is a little bit higher.
And thing to note too is the 5G plans are automatically unlimited, so there's no worries whether you pick the basic plan or the top plan. You're unlimited data, nothing to worry about.
Yeah.
But it still pays you go if you want.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think too, you looked at the questions we've got. There are some that are just barely getting into it,
Yeah.
asking what is a hotspot,
Yeah.
and then you get some people that want to know, basics. A lot of the people in my seminars, they've already gone out and tried it. They already know they have to have unlimited. They know they have to have certain things. I get back to my dad, and when we tried to watch the game, and it was buffering really bad with what he had. And I brought one of these in. We still went 4G. We still were able to watch. ESPN Plus does some of their games with 4K, which is the highest definition signal, and we still were able to watch it, where before it was buffering.
Sure.
And we were kind of wondering, we were only getting like 14 megabyte download, and when I called the company that provides their wireless internet, they said, well, you should still be able to get a signal with that. What were you watching? I said, well, ESPN Plus. Oh, okay, you get 4K. And he says, then that's where you get into trouble. I brought this in with 4G, and we were still able to watch on ESPN Plus a different night, and it was pretty amazing. I was going to bring in one of the routers, and boosters, and
help everyone out there, right?
Well, no, the guy, the technician from the company that provides their stuff, he goes, "You bring that in, you're going to shut down the entire building." He's in assisted care, and I thought that might not be a good idea to do that, because it cuts the signal and brings it down. It's like, okay, I won't do that.
Yeah.
So let's check.
Yeah, a lot of great, like I said, video options still. Like I said, Dish is still the premium video provider. You're going to get that, HD TV. That's another thing that's sometimes missed, is that you're always going to get that high quality, non-buffering. Even with some of the streaming apps, depending on where you are, sometimes you'll run into that. But again, what's more important? Making sure you have your news or your basketball or whatever, or having the connectivity.
Ginger just said, "Thank you. This is really timely. I have something installed and was wondering how to unscramble this."
Yeah. Well, hopefully we've helped untie that just a little bit.
Well, and that you brought up one more point that I just wanted to have you touch base on. In the news, there was Dish Network was supposed to be bought out by DirecTV, and they were talking about the fact that they have debt, and there's some confusion about what is the status of Dish today. That fell through. DirecTV is not going to buy them, at least at this point. Touch base a little bit on that.
That's a lot of what we know and what is absolutely true out there. And I think even when there was discussion, I think one thing that was very comforting to me is that this is an RV product, and we're the only ones that have that. So if DirecTV even came in, they've not had the same competitive product that Dish has provided. They're still the only one that has this specific technology with the HD, with the type of programming options and things like that. So I wasn't too worried about where the RV market aspect was going to go. They're still very alive and well, and pushing forward with this, and are going to continue to offer this service. And on both things, to say that Pace offers a call center that addresses both of these products. So our technicians and salespeople know Dish, they know TravelFi, they know the RV space, and that's the most important thing. Is you call anyone at a general call center, you're going to get so much more confused. But they know what's in your RV and how things normally connect and where things are happening. So it's definitely an advantage to have an RV specialist be able to answer those questions.
And I also talked to one of the technicians that worked for Dish, used to work for Weingard.
Okay.
And just asked him, what is the state of affairs and so forth. He says, we are a very large company. We are solid into the industry, and everybody's looking for buyers at different times. And he said it's just part of doing business, and that we will be around, and we will support the product. And it's you support the product on the RV side, they'll be around. And
absolutely.
To me, it's one of the better ones. I think is there 2 satellites in the west and 3 satellites in the east coast?
It's basically 2 for 2 now.
Yeah.
Okay.
They've been rearranging their networks. They had some lease satellites they let go of, so they didn't resume the lease on them, and now they're moved all the channels onto 110, 119 for the west, and 61.5 and 72, although it might just be 61.5 for the east. But they're consolidating their network, moving things around. They're offering more streaming options. They actually, believe it or not, they're still planning to launch another satellite. So they're still cooking.
Yep.
So.
Well, and the reason I bring that up is that depending on the part of the country you're in, you're not relying on one satellite that's over here. You've got some flexibility, and that's why I think you have better not reception, but better connectivity by having an option. If I'm on the East Coast, I'm trying to get something that line of sight that's on the West Coast, and
Yeah.
that's a challenge.
And with both, products, they've got automatic, signal finder within the antenna, and then the automation for finding whatever best network it is, which makes it foolproof. Right? Like I wouldn't even know what to think or how to switch things like that. But it makes it really easy for the user to not have to know much about technology other than how to plug things in together.
All right. So Sherry says thank you. Great, quite informative. And Joe said, "Hi Bob. Have a great trip." Okay.
All right.
All
well,
right.
Bob, have an
good trip, Bob.
amazing
All right.
trip.
Well, I think we have no more questions, and so our time is just about up. And Beth and Jeff, I appreciate your coming out.
Thank you.
Hopefully you guys got some great information on connectivity. There's options to do just about anything you want to do out in the market. Any last words?
Absolutely. We're excited to help everyone connect, and obviously getting out there is so much fun and so important to people these days. It offers a lot of tranquility for all of us that have been stuck inside for a long time. But either way, we want to keep moving forward and help you stay connected.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, right now is kind of a fun time in the market because, when COVID hit and everybody was buying, we had 625,000 units were sold, and the parks were full, the campgrounds were full. You couldn't get into a national park campground unless you were on that 1 second where everything was open.
Yeah.
And now people are going back to work, kids are going back to school. We're seeing it's a lot easier to get out, a lot easier to go into campgrounds, and with that, connectivity is big. Whether you want to watch TV or not, you still want to check your emails, you want to check your finances, your banking.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
remember when I first went out, before all this, one of my friends and I had just started at Winnebago and traveled for 5 years. He goes, "Well, when do you have time to do your banking?" I'm like, when I go to the ATM machine and
Sure.
get my $2. That was about it.
No.
So anyway,
That's great.
appreciate everybody joining us. Hopefully had some great information for you. This is being recorded. If you do have questions, we can follow up with those. Thank you for joining us, and have a safe RV summer.